G'day guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. I think you know by now, if you follow my channel, that I like to test things on my worms. So I've got a little basic worm farm here that I did a clip on recently that anyone can set up. Very low tech but works well. But what I'm going to do now is just a little test. Now anyone that's had experience with worm farms probably won't find this interesting, or at least know it all. But any beginners might get something out of this. So I'm going to do a little trial. I've got some various samples here of paper, just normal printer paper. There was a note from Table Tennis Victoria came in the mail. I also got the phone bill, so we'll try the envelope. As we all get, lots of junk mail, sort of semi-glossy paper. That's from Australia Post. A bit of a newspaper, just a Flemington Racing Guide. I didn't do any good there, so the worms might as well eat it. And I'll also do a bit of a trial using printed paper that has been shredded, just to see if it makes a difference. So we'll spread these out. I'll check that there's worms in here ready to go first, and we'll spread this out and start the trial. Okay, I've peeled the carpet back. This particular garden bed has had some vegetable scraps and mulched peaches, and it had a bit of what was left in a compost bin put on it. So there's certainly worms in there. And nothing's been done with this soil for a while, so let's give them a feed of paper and see if they get into it. So here's the test samples spread out in a line. I've just sprayed it with the hose to dampen them down a bit. Because the envelope, the windowed envelope, was double thickness, I folded the other items in half to give a double thickness, and there's a sprinkle of shredded paper at the end. So I'll put the carpet back over now and water that down, which I do every day. It's in the middle of summer here now. We're expecting some very hot weather, so I'll make sure I keep it damp. We'll check in a week's time and just see what's happened, and I'll keep regular checks just to see which particular sample gets eaten first, which ones the worms perhaps prefer the least, and it should be good information for any beginner worm farms, as in what to feed them. So we'll check in a week's time. Okay guys, a week's gone by. These weeks go quickly, but anyway, 7 days since I set this up. We'll have a look and see if the worms have done much. I don't expect much at the moment. We've been having some extremely hot days here, and the carpet dries out very quickly. So I'd just suggest that the worms have probably gone deeper into the soil to stay cool. Okay. That envelope doesn't appear to have done much. It's probably dried out a bit, which doesn't help. The piece of printer paper looks as if it's been nibbled around the edges. The junk mail has faded a lot, and again it looks as if it's been nibbled around the edges. The newspaper, yeah, there's not much difference between those three. And if we move along to the shredded paper, there's a worm on top there. So they're probably getting into that. I'll try not to disturb them too much. Yeah, there's activity going on there. And I think if we just peel this newspaper up a bit and have a look. Yeah, there's some tiny worms there. So a week's probably not very long. And as I said, we've had days of well over 40 degrees, probably about 110 Fahrenheit. So even though this is in the shade, it's been very hot, and the worms would have been seeking cooler places to hide. So we'll give it another week. I'll keep it damp, and we'll report back then. So it's now been 2 weeks since we started this trial. It's been extremely hot. We're in the midst of a heat wave here. They're forecasting, I think, 45 degrees today, which is, I don't know, about 110 Fahrenheit, probably a bit more. So, oh, but look at this. There's certainly been some activity, even though it's been so hot. The envelope, not a lot's happened, but then this end gets more sun than the rest of the garden bed, so I might repeat this experiment with things in different positions. I forget what was where now. That was the semi-glossy advertising flyer. There's virtually nothing left. That was the newspaper. So that's pretty much all gone, and there's plenty of worms there. If you have a look at the, I'm not sure what breeds they are, I think there's a mixture in here. And there was something there. So that's all gone. Shredded paper the same, only a few dregs left. So this here's a bit of plastic film that was on something that was shredded, so that doesn't really count. But clearly the worms have eaten all those ones pretty well equally. The envelope's the only one they haven't touched, but I will do a quick repeat on this experiment and see with them in slightly different order. We'll put the envelope perhaps in a wetter spot. So there you go. Hopefully that's some help for beginners, but it looks like whether it's shredded paper, a newspaper, or even the semi-glossy advertising leaflets, all great tucker for the worms. And I suggest the envelope will be too. Of course they won't eat the plastic window, but they're easy to pick out afterwards. So I'll do another quick run with the envelope in a different spot, and we'll tack it on to the end of this video to show you. So just to finalise this experiment on the paper types, it's been just over a week for the second layout, and we'll have a look at what's going on. It'll give us a good idea. So that was the original envelope I still left in there. There's still a little bit of paper there. The newspaper is pretty much only a little thin layer left. I think the printer paper was in here. The second envelope is all but gone other than the window. Now remember, this is only a bit over a week. The first run of this experiment I went for 2 weeks, but the weather hasn't been quite as hot, so I think that makes a difference. That was the glossy or semi-glossy brochure, all but gone. So 2 weeks would see all this gone, and the fact that the envelope has been pretty much demolished this time indicates that it's really no different to the others. The worms do quite happily eat the newspaper, the semi-glossy advertising leaflet. They ate the shredded paper well the first time. The actual printer paper probably went the best, and that's just normal A4 paper that you get in letters sent to you or you print off yourself. So that's probably gone the best, but really there's not a lot of difference. So in conclusion, you quite happily feed your worm farm any type of paper, perhaps not the super glossy type. I might try that at some stage, but certainly newspaper and general junk mail you get, by all means throw it in the worm bin. Whether you shred it first, I don't think it makes a lot of difference as long as you haven't got a really thick stack of it. Certainly this double folded lot, as I did here, disappeared. Throw envelopes in as well. You can easily just pick the window out later. So there, end of the experiment. I hope you got something from this, particularly people just starting out with worms. You certainly can get rid of a lot of your junk mail and newspaper and whatnot through your worm farm. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm always doing tests with my worms, as well as many other avenues or tangents with recycling and upcycling and repurposing and all that sort of stuff. Cheerio.